It is the Jim and Terry Show coming to you from the Hobbit Hole Studio in Bobcaygeon. I'm one of your hosts, Terry, and my co-host is not with me today. Just another podcast or two, and he will rejoin me in the Hobbit Hole Studio. Today I'm talking about how you tell things are not what they seem to be. And I'm pointing specifically to Mark Carney's post on X in which he was talking about his statement on Canada-U.S. trade negotiations. And he went on to talk about the Canadian objective and the Canadian point of view. And right below it was a post, one of them saying with a Canadian flag, "Thank you, Prime Minister. You and your team tried negotiating, but the current American administration is unreasonable. Thank you for not caving in and signing a bad deal. Our sovereignty comes before any trade deal." And then below that was one that caught my eye, this Mark Nixon on X. "You failed," all caps. Who does that sound like? Trump. "After 17 straight months of negotiating, it's time for you to resign." Again, all caps. Who is this guy, Mark Nixon? Got me curious. So I did a little Google searching. I checked his X account, although I'm not a member of X. I can't get into his account fully, but I can see some of his posts and see what he says. His moniker is Truth, Energy, Hope. I cut through the noise, decode the spin, give Canada a reason to believe in tomorrow. Daily fire, relentless truth, believe in common sense. So I started to look at some of his stuff, and you can tell a lot by what people post. By their fruit, you will know them. And so I take a look at some of the things that he's posted, and he's supporting and has an interview with this a candidate in BC, a conservative candidate, Kelly Lynn Friday, is about to, in his words, this is Mark Nixon's X post, she's about to take the establishment on. The future of BC's filled with abundance, unity, and prosperity all. The interview drops tomorrow. I guess that's sometime today. And it's interesting to see his little take on it. He's got a little YouTube short or something that he's posted there. And when he's talking about people that he doesn't agree with or doesn't like, he's in a black T-shirt and raises his eyebrows wondering and a knowing wink, wink, nod, nod. This guy's full of baloney. And then when he goes on to talk about the candidate that he's interviewing, he switches to a jacket and a shirt and has a whole different demeanor. And his next post under it, "Who else wants Mark Carney to immediately release the trade deal that he turned down? I want to see it in full. Canada has a TDS problem." It goes on. I can't see a lot of them. And his one that he decided to post, the last one that I can see, is U.S. Jamieson Greer blames Canada for blowing up. Canada blamed for blowing it. How about the U.S. turned the screws until it was not possible to remain seated at the table going through the grilling, and the terms were changing as they spoke, and they knew there was no way forward. So the deal that Trump said it was so imminent and praised evaporated because the U.S. kept on changing the terms of the deal as they sat at the table. Bad faith bargaining, better no deal than a bad faith bargaining deal. And again, I already offered a contrast between the Canadian negotiating team and the American. I wouldn't trust an American negotiating team at all, ever. And as the world spins, so does the U.S. interpretation of what these things are all about. Anyway, Mark Nixon on X. There might be a few on the far right who might enjoy this guy. He seems to be capturing on the whole scene of face forward, talking, black shirt, short hair, tough guy. In the background is "God Keep Our Land." And I thought, well, that's an interesting thing. So maybe I should take a look at where that one goes. But I haven't. I just thought it was interesting for him to put that. That tells me right away that it's far right, quasi-religious, conservative, political leaning smorgasbord of things. Populism is dangerous, in my opinion. And so then I went to see something else that came up, and I don't know how I got onto this guy, but Moose on the Loose. If you're a far-right populist, some of those people might be in our listening audience. Perhaps you have known or subscribed to this guy, Mark the Moose. Mark the Moose is a little Christmas decoration I have. I'm Mark the Moose, I'm on the loose. So sharing Christmas cheer. Anyway, that's a different Mark the Moose. This is Moose on the Loose. So I just said, started investigating, looking at the posts, and there's this big infographic thing that's jam-packed with Carney's conspiracy to the global economic world, blah, 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 blah. And it's so laden with charts and diagrams. It's like a kid tried to impress his teacher. And when you see that kind of thing, you step back and say, the guy's trying to show that he's well-researched. That's the purpose of loading jam-packed a graphic like that. Because he can say, look. But the trouble is, this is convoluted, complex. Sometimes it's even circular if you go to his chart to see what he's posted. So I don't trust the guy who comes out like that. And I have some family acquaintances who like the guy who gave me that chart a year ago and said, look at that. And I said, well, it's very complex and we need to start looking at it one allegation at a time. You can't just take his word that these things are so. So we began poking it around, and that's the way you do research when you have things that you're not sure about. The radar goes up and you say, wow, this guy's a little over the top trying to make a point. What is it? Then you look at the history and look at the history of the posts that he has made. Is there a consistent through line? And if it stems from right-wing populism, that's called grievance politics. It's when you fire from the lips and you attack people and you use generalizations, sometimes even hearsay, things that are not proven, things that have been not established in either a court of law or challenged legally. And you look at those things and they make the claims as if they're true, but they're not. They are not falsified. And there is the rub. When people start alleging things without having facts or evidence, without having, well, in the case of vaccines, it's peer-reviewed literature. So that's how you separate the wolf from the sheep, those people who are pretend wannabes. And I do want to get to this guy, Dr. John Campbell, eventually. Maybe there'll be a podcast in there eventually about people posing as people who know something. And they really don't. And what they're claiming is not falsifiable. There's the rub. So again, how do I tell these things? I began by looking at Carney's speech just to say, hey, what did he say in light of the walking away from the table? And it began with the whole notion of what is being posted and who posts it and why would they post it. So I think you can learn a lot by just checking out. Not just accepting on face value, but do some digging yourself. Don't be satisfied with answers unless you consider the source and consider reliability of the source. So someone who portrays themselves as an expert or, tries to make it seem one thing, the irony is this guy who has a black T-shirt and short hair and talks face forward to the camera and making it look like he's got God Keep Our Land on the background over his right shoulder. I think, what's your point? What are you trying to prove that you're so over the top with your framing? And the answer is he's partisan. He's got an obvious bias and you know where it's coming from. It's misplaced patriotism. He says it's make Canada great again. Well, in whose vision? Whose eyes? Is it like America? Make America great again? You're going back to the slave trade? You're going back to before civil rights, before voting rights? You want to take the rights away from women to vote and women's health care, and that's great again, or that's great in any sense of the word great? It's a problem. And it's up to us as viewers and watchers to, be careful what you dabble into. And as someone who's seen stuff like this before, been there, seen it, done it, you can smell the partisan politics in this thing when you start to use generalizations and ad hominems. You attack people, you don't provide evidence, you don't provide the research, you make claims that you've done the research, but you never show it. You use vague generalizations. It's like Trump. They say to me, sir, sir. They said, who said? When did anybody ever call you sir? I'd like to know. And media, for God's sake, stand up to Trump. Stand up to people who are telling you fake news and this and that. Anybody who says CBC is propaganda, you have to give your head a shake. It may have a bias. It is not propaganda. Look up the terms and make sure you understand the difference. It's like America going, communist! Check the word out before you start throwing it around like ketchup on the wall of the White House. Remember that? Check out your sources. Don't believe everything you see. Jim and Terry Show, signing off. Bye-bye. It's complicated, this relationship I have with my morning coffee. It's from the way that I brew